In this video, we're going to be creating a character sheet, but look, I'm not going to pretend to know it all, but I feel like there is room for you to take your own liberties when it comes to character sheets. From my perspective, I think there are three things a character sheet should have in order to be considered, somewhat successful or successful, and I believe they are who it's for, who's going to be looking at it, what it's for overall, whether it's comics, animation, the list goes on, and then what's its purpose. What's the focus of the sheet itself? Because yes, you have your character design sheets, but you also have some prop design, the list goes on. We're just going to be looking at a couple that we can find here on Pinterest, and I just searched in character design sheets. And as you can see, even here, you can see categories for comics, blah, 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 male artists, animation, writing. We'll get to that. The focus here is on expression. We get to explore the character and see the character displaying various emotions and facial expressions. And looking at it from this perspective, I can see this sheet being used for animation. Maybe you want the animators or people you'll be working with in a team to have this reference sheet so they know how the character will look in all these various expressions, and they also know what to do and what not to do in certain scenarios where they have to recreate the character, at least from a facial standpoint. So here, this sheet is focusing solely on the face. See another here, and we get a little bit of a turnaround, and the turnaround is really just where you can get to see the character full body from several angles. Not always full body, it's just when you get to see the character from several angles, especially in this organized format. And you can see these lines over here that kind of guide the artist, or at least here, putting this turnaround together so that everything is still in the correct proportions. And then again, is for whoever it may be to, especially if you're working with a team, so they can get this sheet and see the character from different angles. Sometimes just because you can draw a character full on from a frontal view doesn't mean you can draw the character's profile or a side view or a 3/4. So it's always good to have that. And in some cases, especially when there's an original artist, that's the person that gets to do this, or at least they pick one artist so that then they are consistent throughout. This also shows the artists or the team or everyone what the colors of the characters are. I can see this for a children's book, I can see this for a little kid webcomic, or animation if it's going to be animated in this style. Usually when it's done in this very organized format, it's done with a team. So the who's going to be looking at it, that means it's going to be a group of people looking at it. And it's organized that way so that everybody clearly understands. When you're creating something on your own, it's a little different because then it doesn't have to be organized because you kind of know everything for the most part. Got some pretty dope artwork here too. And in some cases, some character design sheets are they're not necessarily character design sheets. They could be concept art sheets where they're experimenting with the character wearing different attire. That might not necessarily be the case here. You can see this is actually a commission piece. So in this case, this is someone who has commissioned this and told the artist exactly what to do. But again, we can see a side view, frontal view, and we just want to be able to see the character from all these angles so that there's a consistency in whatever the purpose is for. So if this is for, say, a comic book, whenever you're drawing it, you want to keep that consistency. Here, that Disney style, but this is the focus here is on expressions. Give this to the 3D team or the animating team, and they kind of look at this as for reference to put all this kind of stuff together so they know what to do and what not to do. Here I can say the who is like who's going to be looking at it is the animation team, and then who it's for, what it's for, I guess animation, it looks very Disney, and then the focus is facial expressions. So I think once you have those key things, you can set out to go put together your character design. Let's look at some other pretty cool ones. Here we get a full body turnaround where a whole team can get to look at it. Now, I will say it's not always a team that gets to look at it. It could be one person. I've been in situations where I want to draw a character turnaround for myself that I can reference so that I have consistency when I'm putting my comic together. There's sometimes with my comic Apple Black where I draw some characters that are throwaway characters that don't really mean much. I usually find myself going back and forth to older pages where I drew the character so that I'm consistent and I look at what I did back then so I'm not doing something different moving forward. Here, a similar thing, you draw the character completely, and then we have a colored version so we know what the colors are. You see another turnaround. This is a Leo's turnaround, whatever this is for. Sometimes when it's this organized, it's easier for a 3D team to take and create a model for it because it's so organized. They'll do their magic from there on out. It's also to have not just consistency for the character, but also for the style moving forward, especially if you're working with a team. The people know that they should be consistent, keep track of the style. We have Norman here. I believe this was like a Tim Burton thing. So you can see part of the style very uniform and consistent over here. And this is what everybody kind of takes through. Yeah, Paranorman from 2012. They look at to keep that consistency. Let's look at how things were broken down for comics. Get this really cool character here. The focus here is on the design, on like the tattoos and how they appear on the character, I'd say. Not so much the expression, because the expression is pretty much the same. Sometimes you see character sheets that they'll show the character, they'll have a key shot, they'll have a turnaround, they have some headshots showing expressions, or just showing the character from different angles, making sure a team or maybe one person is consistent when drawing that character over and over. And then they'll have some parts of the character design drawn separately, where maybe it could be a hand in a side view, so you want to see like the character's ribs, and they'll draw the hand separately. Here's an example of the hand. You have it taken out so we get to see the character's ribs, because we already have a clear shot of the arms front and back with the other poses for the turnaround. It's pretty rigid here. I can see this for 3D animation, I can see this for 2D animation, I can see this for a comic. It kind of all depends on what you want to do. Looks like a badass nun. Here we can see the character, where we get to explore the character facial expressions. We see a subtle turnaround just front and back, but we also get to see the character with a hoodie on and without. You can also get to see the character's swatch or color scheme here. So I can see this done for animation, 2D animation to be specific, because it's not so rigid. The animators get to see the colors that you're going to be picking from. Keep going down the list. This is focused mostly on the character expressions. Obviously this is for 2D animation. I believe this character is from Kill la Kill. Turnaround headshot for several characters at once. So, you know, you can see some sheets killing several birds with one stone. And that's what you just keep in mind. You want to make sure that whatever you're doing is hitting those goals. We know who it's for. It's clear who it's for. It's clear what it's kind of doing. If it's for 2D animation, 3D animation. If it's 3D, like I said, it'll be more rigid. If it's 2D, you know, we'll get more key shots, but we'll also get shots where we get to see the character from several angles. Then we'll know what the focus is on, if it's on the character, a certain part of the character's clothing, tattoos, certain props the character carries around. And then we'll also get to know who's going to be looking at this, because you want to make sure it's clear and easy to understand. Here are some I did years ago. You have a little turnaround here. You have some headshots, get to see the character, several expressions, get to see the character full color so we know what the colors are. And I can see this being used for 2D animation, especially with that Western 2D animation style. The days of something like a Powerpuff Girls or Dexter. And then we get more key shots of the character doing certain things. They help sell the type of character he is. Rough, around the edges, skater type, not good with grades. So I just called him Brock. I completely made this character up. It's one of those ideas that just floating in your head. I also did this. I was trying to create a manga like a couple years ago, and I scrapped it because I wasn't like, the character design itself wasn't bad, but I wasn't too fond of it. And I also wasn't fond of the story I put together. There were some bright spots, but there were some not so bright spots. The logo was also kind of rushed, even though it still kind of looks cool. We get to see some maybe shots that could be taken from the manga itself, just fooling around. We get a turnaround, we get one kind of key shot to a degree. We get a clearer shot of his cutlass, which is what I was going for, but inspired by, you know, what you would see in the like a katana and stuff like that. But it was supposed to be like a cutlass. Then we see some other expression shots. You get to see the character in several expressions, so whoever is looking at it knows what to do and what not to do. Again, some other cool shots telling what kind of character he is. A little bit of a scammer here, trying to act blind, get some money. This is supposed to be a comedy. Maybe a little action here and there. Get a full color here as well. I like Pinterest. Is usually a really good place to visit if you want some inspiration to put together a character design sheet. There are a lot of pros who do it here, so you can also use it as reference to see what to do and what not to do. So now I'm going to create one live. I'm going to create a character design sheet right here, and it's for animation, and the purpose is to focus on the colors and to view the character from several angles, so I know exactly what the character is wearing, and I know exactly what the colors are, I know what the shades are. Here I'm just feeling out how the page is going to be organized. You do want there to be some sense of organization in the way you put together your sheet. You don't want it to be a mess. You don't want it to look ugly. You always want it to look kind of nice, you know what I mean? Here I'm placing things how I imagine they'll be put together, but I can always move things around afterwards, so you don't have to be completely organized from the jump. Now I'm putting the character together, doing the front view, and then from there I'm going to use that as a guide to get the exact proportions to create the character shot from a back view. Having fun on the sketch layer, just putting things together, playing around. Honestly, at this point, I'm making this character up to a degree. Only to a degree. I kind of had a basic idea of what I was doing. Put some Dragon Ball earrings. There's going to be anime references with the character's design, and you guys can leave in the comments what you think they are if you catch all the references. Here I'm just trying to get the body proportions right. It'll be good to study poses and see how characters stand. You don't want your character design sheet to look too rigid. I think the only time you really want it rigid is if it's really going to be for 3D modeling, and so that way it's easy to just use it as reference to create a 3D model for it. For this, I'm kind of creating an animation, at least that's the goal, and so the sheet doesn't have to be too crazy or too rigid. It can be fun and loose, show a little character. You can put a hand in his pocket, so it's like doing it halfway. It's trying to be rigid, but also trying to be cool at the same time, so he has one hand in the pocket. Why not? I kind of have a separate layer, making sure I have the body right, doing exactly what I want, and then I have a different layer figuring out the clothing. You don't always have to do this. It's completely up to you. Sometimes if the character hasn't been thought out at all, you can take this time to have several ideas of what you want the clothing to look like, and you can have different iterations and then pick whatever you feel is your favorite. But in this video, we're just going to be going with the first try. That's why some aren't necessarily character design sheets, because some character design sheets, that's the final, that's how it looks. But in some cases, it's more of like concept art, so you're feeling things out and trying to get the best design. So that's when you're like figuring out the character. Here, we're assuming that I already know exactly what the character looks like, and I'm not really playing around with things. And here with these boxes, I have like proportions done, so I'm just using these boxes to gauge, you know, the distances and making sure that when I'm drawing the character from a different angle from behind, I have the right proportions. If you want to be exact, you can do it for everything, the ears, the eyes, everything. But here, having a little fun. I don't need it to be 100% perfect. You'd want it to be really close to perfect, again, if it was something that needed to be rigid, like say for a 3D model sheet. A 3D model sheet that's starting from an illustration versus say maybe the sheet was created from the 3D software. Then I want a couple of headshots for the character, nothing too fancy. I'm not really focusing on the expressions. Again, this is just for me, so the team is just me. I can make up how the character is going to look, so I don't really need to explore that as much because I already have a pretty decent idea of what I want to do, at least for this example. We'll get to see the character with the eye mask on. Y'all can leave in the comments where you think I got the eye mask from. With the headshots, I'm still exploring different things. But overall, I know what I want to do. And this is just me fooling around, getting a good feel of where I'm going with this. It doesn't have to be 100% organized in the beginning. You can still move things around afterwards. For the inking here, I'm making sure I do it in the style I want the animation to be in. So I'm also trying to nail the style and have a clear idea of how I want the style to look, how everything is going to be illustrated when it's time for animation. And that's something that I'm going to make sure I follow and stick to when I'm doing the animation, if I do the animation. Simple line works, doing everything in Photoshop. You can do this in any software that you're comfortable with. It's completely up to you. Again, the purpose here is to get the lines and put the colors so I know exactly what the colors are, the flats that I'm going to just use an eyedropper tool and just plug from when it comes to actually doing the 2D animation. So specifically 2D animation that we're working on here, I'll be able to use the eyedropper tool and get exactly what I want. So that as I'm going with each frame, maybe when I'm coloring each frame, I'm just using the eyedropper tool, getting what I want, and just moving forward. Kind of makes the process much easier than not doing this in the beginning. It's kind of like one of the early steps you kind of go through when you want to put together an animation. And again, I'm going to do some animation videos in the future, so I'll probably use this sheet and use this character for it. It's not going to be too crazy, but it'll kind of give you guys a good idea of how to animate, at least what the steps are. So if you're looking forward to that, subscribe. If you're enjoying this video so far, please hit the like button, because those help a great deal, help the channel a lot. Like the character here, looking pretty fly. I wonder what the inspiration for this character is. Who is the muse of this character? Doing the same thing for the back of the character. again, for consistency, so I know exactly what I'm doing and I don't have to think about all this stuff when I'm actually creating, say, the animation. Again, in this case, an animation. Filling in all the colors, and we just keep doing this until it's done, and then I'll rearrange the sheet. Now I'm just coming up with the shading for it. Here you can see I have like a video where I go on shading, and I'm actually shading it with like a pretty dark, saturated orange. Eventually I change it to gray, so desaturated completely, and I think that works better for the purpose of it, because the whole point of doing it with the orange is almost like compositing it already, almost like I was doing it for a single illustration. Well, here I'm going to be referencing it, and it's complicated, but it's easier to just go with a desaturated gray completely on the opposite versus what I'm doing now. So I will change it versus this really orangey shade, because we're not creating a mood here. You know, there is no mood here. We just want the flat colors for the original clothing and skin, the eye mask, all of that, and then we want the original for his shading. Here I'm giving it like a orangey feel, but I'll make it gray at the end, because you can then achieve like an orangey shadow or orangey mood or tone for the character afterwards, right? So once you're done with the animation then gets put into a compositing software like After Effects, and then you can do all that kind of stuff here. This is just reflex, because I do a lot of illustrations like this. It's almost like I'm compositing it already, but I'm not supposed to be doing that. So rather than an orange, rather than looking like this, it's going to be looking a little, it'll still look like normal shadows, but more normal, not so influenced by, let's say, like an orange light, or let's say he's in an orange room and that's what's causing this orange shadow. Say he's in a dark orange room and then somebody hit him with a bright light. It's going to form orangey shadows like this, and that's not what I want. The character sheet should just be free from those kind of influences. So imagine he's in a completely white room, and then how would the shadows be shaded in? And I think a desaturated gray, and the layer linear burn and the reduced opacity, typical stuff. And if you want a clear understanding, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you want a clear understanding of what I'm talking about, I have a video that goes into how I color for cell shading, 2D animation cell shading, and that'll kind of help you understand everything I'm talking about. And then when you're done, voila, we get to see the character front and back. I've reorganized the headshots and just having closer shots of the character, and we get to see the character from different angles. The scar on the eyebrow, I literally have a scar on my eyebrow. I got it playing soccer. It sucks, but it's kind of a cool scar in a cool place. It's not this visible, but for this style, I think it'd be pretty neat to have it be clear to see. And then you have the earrings, a clear shot of the earrings for what I want it to do. Does it meet all those goals? What is it for? Clearly animation. I know what I want it for. I just want to have a clear understanding of how the character looks front and back, and I want to know what all the colors are. The sheet also establishes the style that I'm going for. It does that. I know it's for animation. Who's it for? It's for me. But I think if anybody was on my team, they wouldn't need more than this, I don't imagine. Who's it for? What's it for? And what's the focus? All answered. Obviously, that's not the law. You know, I like to hear what you guys think. What do you think needs to happen in the character sheet for it to be considered successful? I'll also love to, learn from you guys. My word is not law. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think of the character design. And if you're curious to what I'm going to be animating, well, stay tuned for that. Don't forget to Detroit smash that subscribe button and hit that bell so you stay notified each time I upload absolutely anything. Please like the video, that helps a great deal. Follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. I post a lot more stuff, and you probably get a clearer version of this illustration on my Instagram and Twitter. Get 2 free months of SKILLSHARE. Watch my other videos, binge watch the whole thing. You guys have been watching my videos a lot, and I appreciate it. It's WHYTMANGA, and I'm out!